Welcome to another edition of Up Close. My name is Motsekoa. Up Close is a daily program that profiles men and women making waves in their industries and gives newsmakers a human face. The program also gives newsmakers a platform where they can share their stories and vision in the hope to inspire you, our viewer. So stay tuned with us for the next half hour as we talk to rising political contender Mmusi Maimane. Mmusi Maimane's rapid rise in opposition politics took many people by surprise. The public first took notice of the Soweto born during the DA's 2011 local elections bid to have him as the mayoral candidate for Johannesburg. What most still don't know about Mmusi is not only does he hold a master's degree in theology, he also holds a second master's degree in public administration. He lectures at a graduate business school and sits on various NGO boards. But beyond his public profile, who is Mmusi Maimane? And that's what we're going to find out today. Mmusi, thank you so much for making the time to chat to us.
Thank you so much, and it's a great privilege to be here. Yeah?
You're a very busy man. I believe you got to makeup and you were asking them, please, can you cut my hair? I haven't had the opportunity to cut my hair. You're very busy.
Well, it is. I think as a father of two little kids, they keep me quite fully entertained, and obviously I still remain a family man, and the politics of our day are getting busier and busier by the day. So I'd hope that that I could come in and they could just do a bit of a favor, but clearly it's not.
Oh, you look just fine. Tell us, who is Mmusi Maimane? Where did you grow up? Well, we know you from Soweto. Just tell us about your upbringing.
I grew up in Dobsonville, and to two of the most incredible parents I could think of. I mean, I think about my own family. I think about the values they instilled in me, the sense that we need to focus on not only ourselves but on others. I grew up and then I went to a primary school in Dobsonville. I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to go into that. I grew up in a Catholic school in Dobsonville. And back then, you know, we didn't always understand what was happening. You know, all I could see happening around was the fact that obviously some of the time, the fully legislated Group Areas Act meant that was where you were allowed to stay. Second to that is that we knew that the quality of education was always inferior, because at the school that I went to, we sometimes had partnership programs with other schools, and then you'd get there and go, why Baba Nali a science lab or whatever the thing is. But then furthermore, having grown up, I still am passionate. I still love soccer. I still play. I played in the streets of Dobsonville like any other child. And so I feel, and in many ways, despite the difficulty of the childhood, I mean, the 80s in Soweto were some of the most violent times I've ever watched. But I still, the privilege of lived in a community like Soweto is something I will always cherish. Yeah?
Unpack that a little bit further, like for people who are outside of South Africa, just trying to understand growing up basically in a township environment. What kind of community is that? Yeah,
I mean, part of growing up in a township, as I've explained, these were communities with these four-roomed apartheid-given houses. You know when you share a wall with your neighbor. In fact, you're very close friends, or other people you share walls with, because you literally feel like you could tap on the wall, and the guy next door would then become your brother, your best friend, and all of that. Yeah. Having grown up in that, we had literally the infrastructure there was quite poor, in that sports facilities were not focused in black communities. So we had to make do. So literally playing soccer on the street, I don't know if we thought of it as a novelty. It wasn't. It was the only thing you did do. And then we formed a soccer team that then we had a soccer field just up the road from our house that had no grass, and sadly so it still doesn't have grass today. But it was great. One of the things that are vibrant about Soweto is not only that, it was musically dynamic. You know, it wasn't. You had this community of vibrant musicians and music playing. I grew up listening to people like Miriam Makeba. I grew up listening to Sanko Mota. I grew up listening to... So that was the music that shaped me.
Every house was like blaring out the music on the weekends and on Sundays.
Absolutely. Yeah. And more than anything, not everyone had a TV. So one of the things that was really, really great was not everyone had a TV, not everyone had a telephone. So it was never bizarre that the house, three houses houses down, someone would call and say, we want to speak to so-and-so from number so-and-so. And literally you had to run and go get the neighbor and tell them the phone is there. And then watching TV, you could go to someone's house and watch television there. That was part of the upbringing. So you were forced into a communal environment. But I think there's something also psychologically healthy about that. You knew that, that everyone was your mother. Or your father. So there was no ways you would disrespect the lady from next door or the father from the house down the road, because they were your mother or your father. You just respected them in that way. But then also you shared stuff. You know, if you didn't have salt, it wasn't bizarre to think to yourself, I'm just going to go next door and borrow salt, buy it at the spaza shop from the house, which is 4 houses down. So I really fondly reflect back on my childhood, really.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because the perception that's out there about you publicly is, you know, I mean, like you said, Dobsonville is not one of the most affluent areas in Soweto, but the perception is that you are from this very affluent background and you've always been middle class. So this is in fact not true.
No, not at all. I mean, I wouldn't say I come from the poorest home in our street. I wouldn't say that at all. But I grew up with parents who worked in factories. I grew up to parents who worked. My mother, for much of my upbringing, worked for a ShopRite Checkers. So I wouldn't grow up from money at all. I had a resolute commitment from my parents who worked, I thought, exceptionally hard to ensure they paid the price for all of us to kind of go to school and to make opportunities. But I didn't feel unique, you know. I felt that was the common story. And every other child had a mother who worked somewhere and a father who worked somewhere, and it was the world we grew up in. So it's nothing. I don't feel exceptionally special at all. I feel that I came from a home that was well-grounded. I came from a home that my parents and many other parents fought to make opportunities possible. And one of the key influences in my life was a lady, a Catholic nun, Sister Christina, who was the principal of my primary school at that time. And I mean, I used to go to school literally in the morning, and I'd come back with everyone coming back from work, because we'd spend afternoons in her office. And I didn't know then she was a political activist. In fact, worked quite extensively even within ANC underground movement. It wasn't bizarre for our school to be searched by special forces looking for documents in her office. But she was a person who set me down, and I'll never forget this. She once said to me, you need to be critical. You need to think about the world in a different way. She wrote in my testimonial, she said, Mmusi has a critical mind. And I didn't know what the word critical meant. So I literally thought she meant I was in a hospital. So I then had to think extensively about that. But she shaped a sense of conscientization that asked us to say, don't accept the status quo.
Ask questions.
Battle hard and go and fight, you know.
Well, let's hold it there, Mmusi. After the break, we continue to get up close with Mmusi Maimane. We'd greatly appreciate suggestions you have or any comments about the show. My Twitter handle is @Motsekoa. Stay with SABC News. Thank you for staying with us as we continue to get up close with Mmusi Maimane. Mmusi, very interesting childhood. Now move us to high school and try to help us understand why you decided to study theology.
It had something to do maybe in some ways with my Catholic upbringing. I always thought the best way for social influence was to go into priesthood in that sense, ministry. And I then decided to, in fact, my undergrad was in psychology and community psychology. So I thought, how do we influence communities? Because that having worked through, I mean, I then worked for an NGO that was based in Muldersdrift, in the farm community, and literally going out to say, how do we go and influence communities? So I thought, that one of the ways to do it is to do it as a combination of community psychology and theology, because if you can integrate people's current reality with their spiritual activity, vibrancy, you can influence communities. So we started doing this and got involved, because I thought that was one of the ways you could do it. And I was inspired. There were a lot of great people who have done great work through their own faith and convictions that have shaped the way they think about the world. And I had the privilege, and that's why I think when I think about even having studied theology, it's given me a sense of not seeing human beings in any class, in any level. It said to me, human beings are first of all human beings. They're created by a superior being, and that lets me look at them, regardless of what their wealth is, regardless of where they come from, as human beings first and foremost. You know? And it helped heal a lot of things in my life. It helped me think carefully about race and the politics of race. It helped me learn.
Did you need healing in that regard?
I felt always that we had this. If it was, there are many people who even still see white South Africans with a sense of hatred, with a sense of that. And I've had to learn quite hard to say, how do we build a non-racist society that accepts the fact that all of us had a past, and regardless of that, it oppressed black people, but in the main, we've got to build a South Africa that is reconciled and builds a better tomorrow. And that's been the journey that my own faith has shaped.
Personalize that for us a little bit. I mean, your high school experience was completely different from your primary school experience. So you were in a school that was integrated. So personalize what you're talking about for us. What was that experience like?
Yeah. I mean, I went to a public school that was, back then, the first of the few to be quite integrated. But make no mistake, it had very strong elements of inequality. I mean, I can never forget the one day we had a child who got into some fight, and it was an argument between the two of them, and suddenly all the black students got together and all the white students got together. And so there was always this racial polarization that was at play. There were teachers who were white who perhaps maybe at times didn't understand the context of what a black child came from. And in part, I had also teachers who, I mean, there were two teachers who were really exceptional in my life. They drove into Soweto and gave us Saturday programs and helped. And suddenly their race stopped mattering, because these were people who were committed to this country. And I think my high school career helped me shape to say that at the end of the day, we've got to understand the broad landscape of where this country is going to. And in fact, leadership today must always be about leading blacks and whites. And that's what even my Twitter handle stands for, is because I think all of us have a past that we need to be liberated from, whether one of oppressing or one of being oppressed. But ultimately, we've got to build a South Africa that's for all.
So then, Mmusi, looking at the trajectory of your professional life, you could have gone anywhere, you know. You're working in the NGO sector, working with communities. Then also you started to delve in business and administration. You could have gone anywhere. Why did you decide to go into politics? I mean, I was looking at you when you walked in. Your shoes did not say young politician. I've had young politicians here. And their shoes, you know, they cost like thousands of rands. You're a simple guy. Why did you decide to do this?
Well, at first, in my NGO work, I mean, just to contextualize, I did business because I thought to myself, I've got to earn money to be able to do the things I love, which is help people. And one day I was walking the streets of Zanzibar. I looked at this woman. I asked this woman, I said to her, how can we help you? And at that point, she was building her own toilet. At that point, she had no place to stay. And I thought to myself, this can't be. This cannot be. And then I, from a government point of view, thought to myself, we as an NGO can deliver food to people, we can do a number of things, but we can't systemically change the process. So I felt we needed to do something. So I made a conscious decision then to say we must commit ourselves to changing the political landscape. Now, my engagement with the DA, in fact, came out of a point where I said to myself, in 1976, when young people marched, they marched for equity. This is my march. They didn't march. If their dreams were realized, it would then stop the purpose of what we're doing today. But their dreams were not. Many young people still don't have a decent education. Many young people still grow up in shacks. So I said, we've got to do something. Now, as a consultant, I could do this for the private sector, and I think the private sector does well in terms of creating jobs, and they must continue to do that. Now,
and as a business person in the NGO sector, you could become a uber social entrepreneur.
Sure. And I could help in that space, and I'm not undervaluing what people do in that space, but I still feel, even sitting here today, that, in fact, what we have to do is create a political space where people can have free affiliation, but that ultimately that says if we're really going to, because 94 wasn't about a one-party state. 94 was about a democratic state. And to build that, you've got to work quite deliberately to make sure our politics get freed up so that South Africans can choose wherever they want to go. So that's why I got involved. And I feel that politics, sometimes people look at politics and they say, man, it's ugly. You'd be better served in business. It's clean, it's neat, it's all of those things. My sense is that politics, as ugly as it is still about very important things. It's about people's water, it's about people's jobs, it's about people's, and that's why I'm passionately engaged. So I don't feel that...
We need to hold it there. I'm going to take a quick break so that we can continue getting up close with Mmusi Maimane. Do you have any suggestions or comments about our show? Please share them with us. My Twitter handle is @Motsekoa. Stay with SABC News. Thank you for staying with us as we wrap up our conversations with Mmusi Maimane. Mmusi, I can feel the passion as you talk, but it's not just passion. You did something about it. You enrolled for a second master's degree in public administration. You really take this seriously.
Of course. I think the future of our politics mustn't ever be politics of opportunism, where people come on board and they say, maybe if I get office, I'll get blue lights and whatever the thing is. It must always be about service to the people, and not just uninformed service to the people. It must be... I went and studied a second master's because, first of all, I wanted to understand a macroeconomic policy that would help the poor. And so I focused on that, and I studied that, and I still am committed to finding the best models that say, how do we build the South Africa that we can? Because, you know, Africa's greatest resource are its people. My generation, we've experienced part of freedom. We've experienced... We were liberated to study wherever we could choose. We had opportunities. I had opportunities my parents didn't even have. So I don't want to wake up one day, 10 years down the line, and say, what did you do with the opportunities that were presented to you to serve South Africa? So I studied, and I'm still committed to studying, and would want to have an administration of people who say, we are competent, we know what we're doing. So that people, you know, as a black South African, I don't want anyone to look at me and say, hi, Marwena, you are this, you are that. No. I want them to know I'm competent, I'm strong, and I can do the job. I don't want to be apologetic about that. And that's what I want to see for so many black kids, you know? You're
not the guy who's just bringing the rhythm to the party.
I'm trying.
There's more to it. Well, we want to know, who is Mmusi outside of your work? You're a husband and a father. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I have a great wife. We have 2 beautiful kids. Yeah, I'm just a family guy, and I try as best as I can to do as much with them as I can. I in fact get involved my social activities. I still get involved with whatever the community is, whatever. I'm still involved even in our own local church, and so that's the story. That's my story. I'm passionate. Support all the sport in our country. I think I watch as much as I can, and I'll watch it until South Africa. One day, maybe Bafana will play at the World Cup, and we'll get there. Is
that your favorite sport? Football?
Yeah, I try and watch as much as I can. I mean, I watch football, I'll watch rugby, I'll watch cricket. I love as much sport as we can. I mean, having played football, so I suppose I watch football. But I still am. I'm a proud South African. I love Bafana. I love the Springboks. I love the Proteas. You know, I support all. And I think there's a guy now who won the tennis at the US Open. I think that's phenomenal. So I've been trying to find out about this guy to congratulate them, because anyone in South Africa who does something great, we must celebrate success. We must, and I think it's phenomenal.
Tell me, what do you do just to relax? Other than spending time with your kids and your wife, what do you do just to kick back?
I have quite a strong training session. So we train at least I got to try and keep in shape. I know it doesn't look
Okay, okay.
So I do that. I play quite a bit of sport. Either that we have a standing appointment. I play soccer at least every week, or
So you're part of a club?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still, to this day, still play tennis sometimes. You might not know that. I pick up a racket and go play that.
Okay.
And then, so I have a friend who does that. But in the main, and then other than, you know, it's funny. When you're in the public space, people tend to assume that you love being with people all the time. The best gift I give myself is just to be alone somewhere and read a book. I know it sounds very nerdy, but if I can shut myself away, even for an hour or two, that's the best gift I get. And then I watch television. I love what's my favorite series at the moment is that The Fixer. You know? So that's great. I know it's in the competition. I would say I watch news all the time, but I watch a fair share of a series. I'll get into it.
No, sure, of course. News is not a way to relax. Do you do much traveling?
I do.
For leisure, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. My family and I, we try to spend as much time traveling together as we can, where we can make it. But, you know, it's very difficult because sometimes in our politics, you kind of arrive at a space where you've got to be on top of issues on a long period of time. So to try and drag time aside is always quite tricky. But yeah, we have different rhythms. I mean, I think if you were to say, what does my Maimane family want to do best? If you found us at the beach and my kids can play and I can read and other people can swim, we have a win. Yeah, happiness. That's our best. But
we haven't touched on something. Just before we go, we've got like a minute left. I believe you actually active as a pastor as well.
I'm still involved. You know, I think church keeps me sane. It gives me a sense that we've still got to sense altruism. We've got to remind ourselves that we are servants, not anything great. So I'm still involved, mainly because it gives me a conscience to keep that. Yeah. So I still am involved with that. I went into politics to make a difference, and that commitment has not waned and will continue. So if it ever became about positions or became about rights, then I think I must give it away.
And in closing, as we broadcast to other African countries, what do you think is the one particular quality or characteristics that Africa needs in its young leaders today? 10 seconds.
I think we must own our today so as to focus on tomorrow. And I think young African leaders must be conscious of that, understanding we have a very hectic history as African states. But I think Africa is the way for tomorrow. We're in the best continent. You know.
Thank you so much, Mmusi, for making the time to chat to us.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Up Close. Catch us same time, weekdays on SABC News, DSTV channel 404. Comments, suggestions, please share them with me. My Twitter handle is @Motsekoa. Until next time, bye-bye.